Box Guts,
What up?
how you feeling?
Good, good. Good to meet you.
You too, man. Sound good, look good over your way?
Yeah, all is clear.
Okay, you got your Wi-Fi on?
I got my Wi-Fi on. Am I coming through a little choppy?
No, you think you're good now. Sometimes when you first connect, it gets choppy, then it works itself out.
Okay.
So you're looking good, sounding good right now. For everybody joining us on this Tuesday, this is P.U.S.H.A episode 15, people you should hear about, and I am with Boxguts of Freestyle Cologne. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday.
What up?
Big shout out to Jerry Graham for linking us. So for everybody who may not know you, can you take us back to where you were born and raised?
I was born and raised, a little raised all over the place. I was born in Detroit, and I grew up mostly in Atlanta and Orlando. Then I moved to Brooklyn, New York in 2004, and then I moved 2019 to Vermont, where I'm at right now, raising a family.
No doubt, no doubt. Can you talk a little bit about the transitions from city to city? What brought you to each one?
Yeah, mostly growing up, it was my father. So my dad, he worked in television, and he was always staying in big cities. So we started in Detroit, then moved to Pittsburgh, then Minneapolis, then Atlanta, then Orlando. So those were all pretty much just kind of family moves. I'm so young, I'm going with it. And then I went to college in Sarasota, Florida for art. I studied illustration. And then as soon as I finished the program, I wanted to get up to New York and just pursue music and art. So yeah, within like a month or two, I found a place in Brooklyn, and that was it. So I stayed up there and just hit it against the wall as hard as I could until 2019, just a little before coronavirus thing kind of happened. I found out my lady was pregnant, and we had been kind of talking about wanting to move and seeing if I could do this thing remote. And we've been going up to Vermont for, I think, like 8 years prior to moving there. We were going 2 times a year to kind of get a nature feel, breaks from the city. And every time we came up, we wanted to stay longer and longer. So I thought, it became clear like that was the move. And yeah, couldn't have been a better move.
Right. Before getting into music, can you take us back to some of your early music influences?
Sure, sure. So really before hip hop, I was really into metal. And then I think around 92, 93, I was probably around 10 or 11. I got introduced to rap, and it captivated a similar kind of energy as the metal. And I think what really drew me to it was, for one, I was into the beats as soon as I heard them, but then the way people rhymed and used their voice as an instrument, man, it just grabbed me. Also, I wanted to do music, but I couldn't play any instruments for shit. I would try and play the drums. I tried to play the guitar. Nothing stuck for me. For some reason, I had a natural knack for rhyming, and I kind of wanted to make songs as a kid. I talk about it a little on the Freestyle Cologne album, Banging on a Trash Can Lid. I would come up with little songs, nobody knew, but I was just coming up with little songs, and I figured I kind of had a little internal rhythm. And then as soon as I started trying to rhyme, it became an art form for me that it was like, okay, now I got it. I can do music.
Right.
And yeah, from there, I just got deeper and deeper into it.
Give us a little bit of a timeline of when Boxguts started getting into rhyming and knowing he had a passion to pursue this as a career.
I would say around 94, 95, I started to play around with freestyling. And then I would write down little lines kind of as I'm freestyling, like, oh man, that's some clever shit. I got to come up with that. I got to string that together someday and try and write a verse. And then in high school, I think it was maybe 97 or 98, a friend of mine who took rhyming pretty serious, he was passing around a verse and kind of saying, for a few folks to add to it. and I wrote a short verse, maybe 8 bars, and I knew something stuck because it got him mad, and he was known for being nice, you know what I mean? And a couple other kids in the class were like, "Oh, who wrote that one?" And so I was like, okay, something might be working here. And around 2000, I started to record verses. So at that point, I was secretly kind of just jotting them down, still freestyling regularly, mostly to battle. Honestly, it was kind of like a cocky thing, just having fun, because other kids would freestyle, and I could see where they're gonna fall off and cut them off, and just start doing my own thing. And then that turned into just sort of like a little ways of being competitive with each other, to then wanting to really make songs. And so I started to push the pen around, I think seriously push the pen around 2000. And I was in a group called Box Reb. It stood for Boxer Rebellion. I started with my boy Bert Diesel, and that was in 2000. And then we were recording songs around that year to the point of 2004, when I left to New York. So at that point, I was going under my graffiti name. I was doing a lot of graffiti. And then I figured that was such a bad look, because I wanted to go bigger with my rap. You know what I mean? And it was like, damn, if I'm shouting my graffiti name, how the hell am I not gonna get caught if I do go as big as I want? So then it became a conscious choice to go with the name Boxguts to represent my crew, Box Reb. So I wear the box in my name, and then Guts because I was always coming from the guts and spitting just raw shit.
Right. What was some of your earlier creative process going into some of your songs? Did you have to use instrumentals, or were you constantly writing in your notepad at this time?
Instrumentals for sure, and I would rhyme over people rhyming if I liked the beat. I would try and not hear them and just zone out to the beat and spit over them. I had a dictaphone. Remember those little recorders with the small tapes?
Right.
And so I would try and space it far enough away where you could hear a little bit of the knock of the beat, but I would get my mouth up close enough where you would hear me rather than whoever I was listening to. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, yeah, then I would just come and jot whatever I was freestyling, and that was kind of the earliest ways I was starting to write.
Right. Did you always want to be in a group, or at what point did you start pursuing a solo career?
I started pursuing solo, I think in 2004, and I did want to be in a group because I think because I wasn't a producer, so I always liked working with people. I did try my hand at beats, and it was like the same thing as picking up a guitar and drums again. It was like, this is not sounding the way I want it to sound. And it gave me a really good energy to collaborate with people. I always liked passing that energy back and forth. So I think it was because I was moving from Florida, where I had started the group Box Reb. There was 4 of us, and because I had to take off on my own, it was kind of only natural. And I was always pushing the pen by myself, coming up with small songs and stuff, but I hadn't really thought of being a solo artist until, 2004.
Right. With the group thing, 2000, 2004, major labels are still in full swing. Did you guys do demos and shop labels at this time?
We did, but we were going for very underground type of labels. Like, I would say Raucous would have been more of the aim where we were shooting at. And we would do the thing where, I don't know if this was true or not, but someone had told me, if you send the CD to yourself, a poor man's copyright, right? Like, if you send a CD to yourself in the mail. So we would send our CDs out to wherever we were putting targets on. Like, there was a few very small independent labels that we would shoot our CDs out to and then send it to ourselves. Like, okay, well, okay, no one could buy our shit.
Right. Can you take us back to some of your early due paying days? Some of the performances, some of the sessions that you guys went through to get your name out there?
Absolutely. For me, in college, I would freestyle enough that I felt it was kind of I was the guy that someone would call, that if someone was partying and they were like, I rap, and someone would start freestyling, then someone would hit me up and be like, get over here, somebody's rapping and you got to battle somebody. So most of the early due paying for me was freestyle battling, just straight off the top, no writtens. That was like a big no-no. You know, where it is now, it's so dope how it elevated to a real performance. But at that point, it was just wits, energy, clowning. And that started for me, that probably got me the most into rap. So I first started doing that in high school. And so I would get a little bit of my, just people know that, okay, he rhymes too, because I was known for drawing mostly in graffiti. And then with graffiti, I could throw my name up. And so that helped kind of like, oh, you know, he's not like as square as he looks or whatever.
Right.
And then I went up to New York right before I moved there to link with some people that had a label, and it was called Mondrian Sound. They, a dope crew, mostly family. And they took me out one night, and some dude started just clowning on me just off of how he looked. I think he could tell I rapped because the way I was bobbing to him freestyling. Then he started clowning on me, and I just took that as an opportunity to show what I could do because I was trying to impress the cats that I was hanging with. And I think that helped for one because I knew I knocked a hole in the dude, and then I felt like they could see it, and that gave me a bigger up because at that time that label was working with a lot of the artists that I was listening to. So I thought, okay, maybe this will go around a little bit. And then I started kicking it with Johnny 23, and that's the label I ended up joining. And I would freestyle with them constantly. I think that was really a lot of the dew pang was showing I could go off the top. And then I had done I did one tournament battle in Sarasota before I moved. And am I chopping up a little bit?
Just a little bit.
All right, sorry. Yeah, I think my reception may be coming in and out. But
Okay.
so out there I did in battle, and that was cool. I was simultaneously competing in a graffiti battle. It was like a big hip hop expo. And I won my MC battle. That was the first tournament battle I ever did. And then I went out to finish my graffiti piece. And while I was painting, supposedly they had called me up and I never heard it, but I had somebody inside waiting for me to be called. So that was one of those things where I was like, man, I got cheated out of that, and it made me go harder. So I would just try and battle whoever I could at that point. And then while I was in Brooklyn, I started getting some shows. So some of the shows that I got, I think really helped that paying dues too, because I had shared bills with like Boot Camp Click, Killer Army, Artifacts, Sciences of Life, a lot of underground names that I was just heavy on, you know, people that I had listened to, and it's like, damn, now I'm actually rapping in front of these cats. And Keith Murray, you know, Thurston Howell, the names could go on and on.
Very dope. Tell us what went on particularly at the J23 mansion.
Oh man. Ah man, any type of madness you can expect. I mean, probably a lot of it too incriminating to mention. Um, but I think, you know, the main focal points for me was really building with Johnny 23. So meeting Low Deck, he lived just a few blocks away, and that's my partner in Freestyle Cologne. When he and I met, we pretty much hit it off right away. I had been listening to his music for a few years already, and I was communicating with him some online. So we had a little bit of familiarity with each other, and we linked up through our roommate who he's kind of he's just got his neck in a bunch of crews, but you could say he was part of Johnny 23. He goes by Bad Touch. Now he goes by NoHo Fidel. But Bad Touch was pretty much the owner of the J23 mansion. And there were a couple other members of J23, Jack Progresso, and a dude named RC who lived there just before me. So I started to meet the whole crew little by little. And it was just constant recording, painting, people coming through. I mean, you had like Fat Lip come through from Far Side. Plenty of just amazingly talented artists, and that really helped. Not just push me to record more, but to build more and be less introverted. Because I would say naturally as an artist, I spend a lot of time indoors, but that helped to get me more accustomed to rhyming around a lot of people.
Right. What kind of feedback were you getting with your earlier projects, and how did you make adjustments going into the future?
With my first solo project, I remember that the most because I came really heavy on the words, and it was an interesting mixed bag for me. So I had a lot of people saying, I like what you're doing, spitting fast, trying to, come up with the creative process of like um, switching a lot of patterns. But I would have other people telling me like I'm jamming too much, trying to fit too many words into bars and stuff. And I honestly, I could tell where that was happening. I think not so much with that album. I think by the time Mutilator came out, I was already starting to tighten that up. But just before then, I was working on an album that I let a lot of friends hear that never came out. And that was definitely one of the things that I took as, okay, so how how do I go about that? Really, what I figured is you can say so much more with saying less if you refine it. If you refine the way you're saying it, to be able to communicate more broad with using less words that kind of just take the rhythm out of things. And then I started to pay a lot more attention to just being with the beat and yelling with the beat a lot better rather than trying to get my spit across.
Right. I went past your page and noticed a lot of illustrations. Can you talk a little bit about your illustrations and how you incorporate that within your music?
Sure. Yeah. So illustrating is that's like my other first love. So music and art came at the same time for me as far as interests in my life, and I pursued them both equally as hard. And with illustration, I got to actually go to school for that. So that was really dope because at the time I just did graffiti and drew, and I thought I had a little bit of talent, but I knew I could get a lot better if I went to art school. So I studied illustration there, and I got some pretty darn good jobs, as a freelance illustrator. I got some jobs with Cartoon Network. I got some illustrations in Double XL magazine, and I got put onto a gallery pretty early while I was out in New York, and that gallery helped a lot because they would do advertisements in magazines like Juxtapose. So I would take that opportunity to be like, okay, here's my album cover. Let's have that in the magazine. So I would showcase my art and advertise the music at the same time. And really, I just wanted to. I think it came from being so into heavy metal, and what drew me to metal, I think initially was really their album covers because they were just crazy to me. And I like that feeling of looking at something before you pick it up and put it in your CD player or put it on your record player. So I always wanted to have really strong graphics, and for me, it just felt like the best person to do it was me because it matched the sound.
Right. You talked about meeting Low Deck over at J23. At what point did you guys start to talk about working together and forming Freestyle Cologne?
I think 2008 or 9. I think 2008 or 9 we had already started recording together. And then I want to say it's between 2009 and 2011 where we first started forming the group. And we had a string of probably like 6 tracks we did all at once over a mutual producer's beats. And then he said he had access to the dude Blockhead's catalog of stuff that he was just like not going to send out to other MCs. So we attacked that batch, and that filled in the rest of the project. So I think by like 2011, we were probably done recording that, and it was solid. At that point, we were like, okay, we're a group.
What's the concept behind the name Freestyle Cologne?
Well, it's a lot of mixed things, I think it really stemmed from us freestyling together to form our sound, and it had that smell, it just like uh, getting sprayed with whatever we hit you with, and it became something that was fun to play off of, like having an acronym that you could use multiple words to fill in for. You know what I mean?
Right. You guys dropped Because You Stink in 2011. What was the creative process of that particular project?
That one was a lot of drinking, a lot of smoking, tripping. We were just bugging out basically and having a good time. We were making it for ourselves, but we ended up sharing it with the crew, and you know, getting a good enough response to where we thought, let's put this out. But really, the process was just hanging out the way we did, just getting twisted, but sitting down and locking in on one joint to like knock it out in that session. And we were always kind of trying to come with some like very left topics that had not been touched. That was kind of our signature, is like, let's just make something that, like, we had a song called "Do the Bad Nanny," and that's our dance song, a bad nanny, and the hook was hold the baby, drop the baby, do the bad nanny. It's just some bullshit, to have fun. That was really our process.
What was the reaction like when that album came out?
The reaction was mixed. I would say there were a lot of people that had initially fucked with us that were like, we like it because it's you two. And then there was a lot of people saying, man, the sound quality. And that's just me being honest. And we did our best to actually get it to sound as good as it sounds. It was just recorded under very funny circumstances. I mean, an echoey mic, in an open room, and like stumbling to get to the mic after drinking too much, kind of thing. And I think it's apparent in the sound, but at the same time, we didn't want to re-record it because the magic and the energy was there. And so the people that did like it, they knew that was part of it.
Right. There's about a 10-year gap in between your first and sophomore album with Low Deck. I know you got a lengthy discography. You didn't slow down one bit, but at what point did you guys have discussions about to reform and drop this latest joint?
It was something that we would always talk about little by little over the years. He's one of my closest friends, so we would hit each other up on the regularly and just kind of always say, man, freestyle Cologne, freestyle Cologne. But nothing really started to happen until last year. We were recording a Johnny 23 group album, and there was maybe 3 tracks that I set off, and when I sent them to the rest of the group, it was like crickets. You know what I mean? I didn't hear anything. But Deck hit me back right away and was like, yo, I'm feeling these. Let's take these off to the side and let's start that freestyle Cologne too. And that was just it right there. And it was like a steam engine. I mean, he hit me back literally within a week. All of them laced, all 3 laced, and then it was just beats and beats and beats, and then cycling through and figuring out what it was going to be like, because we wanted to make that leap of progression very evident from our first album.
Right. I'm sure that first album you guys recorded together. How did it feel being in 2 separate areas trying to put this project together?
It was cool, honestly, because I think it gave us more of that time to focus. When we would hang out together, we're mostly laughing about while we're writing, like, oh, you can't even finish your verse because you got to say a bar to your boy, and then maybe kind of like work off of each other. So this was really nice to be able to sit down, spend our time, concentrate, and a lot of times it would just be even maybe 8 bars. He'll send it my way, or a hook, I'll send it his way, and then feeding off of each other like that, with giving that time to focus. I think it was really dope.
Did you guys have discussions about the direction you wanted this project to go, or was it just kind of a freestyle situation?
We did. Some tracks, there were very specific topics, and then others were kind of like, peep what I did and here's how it goes.
Can you take us back to how you linked with DJ Red Rock and the Golden Gods?
Yeah, with DJ Red Rock, he would come through for poker tournaments at the J23 Mansion. He'd been in the game for a long time, and he was DJing probably definitely years before I met him, but he was probably DJing before I was even rhyming. And he just had a heavy ear for music. And whenever he came through, he'd always bring through mixtapes, and we all vibed on the same music. So it was really dope, and we got along. It's mostly like cracking jokes and the poker tournaments. You know, people were being vicious and whatnot, but everybody had a good energy. And I didn't even really realize he was making beats until years down the line. He moved out to Japan, and then he started sending me beats. But he was simultaneously doing a mix show online and would ask for tracks of mine. So he started playing Low Deck and I's solo tracks on his Mixcloud page. And then I when he would do gigs in Japan, he would play some of our stuff and then sending us beats, you know, and it was kind of like, oh man, I didn't realize that this was going on too. And it was just dope because Deck and I were really agreeing on the same beats that he was sending us. And then as far as the Golden Gods, I don't know personally. That was Deck's gift. And I did one track with Alkaline, I think in like 2011 or 2013. That was on the Because You Stink, the first Freestyle Cologne album. So I date back as far as 2013 or 11 with Alkaline. But Low Deck extended back further with him. And then Soul 626, who's the other member of the Golden Gods, he was boys with Alkaline for a long time. And yeah, that's kind of how we all connected.
How long from beginning to end do you think this project took you guys to put together?
I'd say a year.
Oh, wow.
I would say it happened over the span of a year. Yeah, it happened over the span of a year where we were both doing our own things, but we always came back to that with a lot of attention.
Right. The project is out now, is that correct?
It is out now, correct.
I'd like to go through some of these tracks, and if you can remember just by the title and some of the inspiration, just give us some background on some of these titles. Cuomo.
Cuomo, that was one of the first ones recorded for the project. So that was a beat that just got sent for the Johnny 23 project, and I spit a little verse on it, and Deck was the first to want to jump on it. So that's how that one set off.
For Thee.
It's called because of the Perry Cuomo sample in the beginning of it.
So, For Thee.
For Thee, that one was the first that we did for DJ Red Rock. DJ Red Rock had sent his batch of beats, and that one we just snatched up right away. And that one, I think the beat pushed the rhymes out. You know, it was just, I didn't have a specific topic in mind, but I was the first to lace it, and I passed it to Deck, and he had that hook right away. And I was like, okay, this is going to be sick. That was one of our early ones for the album.
Imagination.
Imagination, that one is about pretty much our friendship. That one is a lot about stuff that we had done together and giving each other props on each other's careers as MCs.
Colgate for Cobras.
That's another one of the early ones that got set off. I love that title, man. Yeah, that's just kind of, you know, Colgate for Cobras, sharpening those fangs, hitting it with the Colgate and keeping things fresh.
Lay Still.
Lay Still, that one is mostly about our being battle tested. We both started off as freestyle MCs and battling, and that one carries our energy as battle MCs.
What's Good?
What's Good? That one kind of, for me, when I heard the beat, I had this almost like a what I know it sounds funny, but it's like how much wood could a woodchuck chuck? That was stuck in my head that day, and I just flipped it to what's good, what's really, really good, and we rolled with that.
Wild Way.
Wild Way, that's another DJ Red Rock. That one is also about that's mostly about our coming up in rhymes and becoming MCs, and then the things we would go through, the trials and tribulations of life through hip hop.
Yanti.
Yanti, that was one of the last ones laced. Deck set that off. I was just really feeling his verse and just just wanted to spray something hard on that one.
Crystal Quran.
That okay, that one is great, man. That's so the whole steez of that. That's just a guy calling on, he leaving a voicemail that he's mad at us for being called Freestyle Cologne, and his name is Freestyle Cologne, and so he's we're biting his name, and he wants us to change our rap name because he doesn't want anybody sounding like him.
Dope insight on that. Insane for Loving You.
That's about our love for hip hop, and from the very earliest beginnings of our careers as MCs to where we're at now.
Jump 2.
Jump 2 is a continuation from a song called We Had Jumping on Steroids, Because You Stink. And that one, the reason why we did that was because the beat, it had such a similar feel to the original Jumping on Steroids that it was like, all right, let's just do that. It just spelled itself out for us.
Clay.
Clay is another one of the last ones we did for it. That one, I just remember getting Deck's verse and being, I loved it, and I just wanted to impress him with some new shit, So that one kind of like, that had our freestyle type of feel to it, but not any real particular type of concept.
Pacific Railroad.
Pacific Railroad. That felt like, see, we were needing an end piece for the album really bad. And when we actually had that beat for a pretty decent amount of time, and we're just saving that one down to be the end piece.
The album's been out for about 4 days now. What kind of reception have you guys gotten so far off of this one?
Very good. Very good. So everybody that had, initially liked the first one seems to be in agreement and impressed with where it came. People who have been following him solo and following me solo, also very, very strong as far as the feedback we've gotten. And, thanks to Jerry, we're now getting it out to more ears such as yourself. And it's been great, even just having the platform, meeting people that we didn't know that are showing some love. I think it's off to a really good start.
Very dope. If you could list that title of that album and where it can be found at for the viewers.
The album is called Low Day Guts, and you can find that on all streaming platforms. You spell it L with a little apostrophe, E-A-U, next word D-E, Guts, G-U-T-S. And it's also on lowdeck.bandcamp.com, where you can buy the physicals, and you can buy the physicals from me as well. I'm boxguts.bandcamp.com. But yeah, it's all on iTunes and Spotify, Deezer, Tidal, everywhere. YouTube as well.
What's next for Freestyle Cologne?
I would say, well, right next tomorrow, we're going to be dropping a lyrics video, but it's not just like a still image with words coming up. It's a proper lyrics video. It's got really cool moving graphics, and I don't want to spoil too much, but we'll be dropping that tomorrow for our song Colgate for Cobras. And other than that, just more planning to keep this thing moving, and also dropping the Johnny 23 album. Both Low Deck and I have a large presence on that album, and we get to do our thing with the rest of the crew. So if anybody's looking for any follow-up, No Scope Johnny 23, keep your ears and eyes open for that.
What's next for Boxguts?
For me, I'm just going to keep pumping this. I got another album out right now called Hot Breath Boy Volume 8. And we just got cassette tapes of that. So I got cassette tapes. Also got, I do these customized CDs. So it looks like a record. And it's a digital vinyl. And each one I do a different illustration on. So they're all one of a kind. So I'll be cranking out those, shipping the Freestyle Cologne. And then I'm finishing an album that I started with my brother, rest in peace, Label S. Label S had passed away earlier this year. Label S, man, amazing MC. He had started a crazy project together, and he was part of a group called Bloody Monk Consortium.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah. I'm familiar with
yeah,
them.
Bloody Monks, man. That shout out to Bloody Monks. We'll be finishing that project together, and most of my focus will be there. And I've got a few other side projects with a couple other homies, and then I've got a few folks that I've been building on with their beats. And so you're just gonna keep seeing box guts popping up here and there, everywhere. It's just how I just keep it rolling, man. I love to keep doing it and coming with as much force as possible.
No doubt. Salute to you, Boxguts. I appreciate you for joining me this evening. Before we get out of here, can you tell us where to keep up with you on social media, as well as anything as far as Freestyle Cologne?
Absolutely. You can find mostly Freestyle Cologne will be at Hot Breath Boy and at Low Deck on Twitter. Then you can keep up with me on Instagram at Boxguts and on Facebook at Boxguts. And yeah, keep up with our Bandcamp pages. We pretty much keep those regularly updated. So again, that's boxguts.bandcamp.com and lowdeck.bandcamp.com.
Any plans for any touring in the future?
I would love to do some touring. There's no shows locked at the moment, and I really want to get my feet wet out here in Vermont. I mean, honestly, I've done some art shows, but I haven't performed out here yet. So the plan is to start from the home base and get back out to New York for sure. But I've done some touring on the West Coast. I would love to get back out there. And yeah, I mean, it's only a matter of time before the doors start opening again. And people start, I see that there's already shows going. So that's a good
Right.
sign.
Big shout out to Jerry Graham again for connecting us. Any last words you'd like to leave your supporters, Boxguts?
Man, thank y'all. I appreciate y'all very, very, very much. Freestyle Cologne, man. Y'all already know. And thank you very much, Sin-Seer. I appreciate you having me on here.
Anytime, man. Anytime you got some new product, let's do it all over again.
So, thank you.
Appreciate you. This has been episode 115. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of my other show. This has been episode 15 of P.U.S.H.A, People You Should Hear About. That is Boxguts of Freestyle Cologne. I'm the Journalist Sin-Seer, and we're out of here. Thank you so much, Boxguts.
Peace. Thank you.
Peace.
Peace.